My darling philosophers, welcome to our daily devotional reading. I hope you are well. Let's close our eyes. Take a couple of deep breaths together. Sink into the moment. I don't know what the moment is, but sink into it. Become aware of your heartbeat if you can. My heart was beating very visually, like I could really feel it. And as soon as I said become aware of it, it's just stopped. Well, I didn't stop beating, but it chilled. Let's read Plato. Socrates. For what use is there, Callicles, in giving to the body of a sick man who is in a bad state of health a quantity of the most delightful food or drink, or any other pleasant thing, which may be really as bad for him as you give him nothing, or even worse if rightly estimated? Is not that true, Callicles? I will not say no to it. Socrates. For in my opinion there is no profit in a man's life if his body is in an evil plight. In that case his life is also evil. Am I not right? Callicles says yes. Dude has no balls. Socrates. When a man is in health, the physicians will generally allow him to eat when he is hungry and drink when he is thirsty. And to satisfy his desires as he likes. But when he is sick, they hardly suffer him to satisfy his desires at all. Even you would admit that, yes. And does not the same argument hold of the soul, my good sir, while she is in a bad state and is senseless and intemperate and unjustly and unholy? Her desires ought to be controlled, and she ought to be prevented from doing anything which does not tend to her own improvement. Yes, such treatment will be better for the soul herself, to be sure. And to restrain her from her appetites is to chastise her. Yes. Then restrain or chastisement, blah, 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 you know what I mean, is better for the soul than intemperance or the absence of control, which you were just now preferring. Callicles, I do not understand you, Socrates, and I wish you would ask someone who does. Socrates, here is a gentleman who cannot endure to be improved or to subject himself to that very chastisement of which the argument speaks. Callicles, I do not heed a word of what you are saying, and have only answered hitherto out of civility to Gorgias. Socrates, what are we to do then? Shall we break off in the middle? Callicles, you shall judge for yourself. Socrates, well, but people say that a tail should have a head and not break off in the middle. And I should not like to have the argument going about without a head. Please then to go on a little longer and put the head on. Callicles, how tyrannical you are, Socrates. I wish that you and your argument would rest, or that you would get someone else to argue with you. Socrates, but who else is willing? I want to finish the argument. But who else is willing? I want to finish the argument. Callicles, cannot you finish without my help? Either talking straight on or questioning and answering yourself. Can is maybe not the question. Socrates, must I then say with Epicharmus, 2 men spoke before, but now 1 shall be enough? I suppose that there is absolutely no help, and if I am to carry on the inquiry by myself, I will first of all remark that not only I, but all of us should have an ambition to know what is true and what is false in this matter. For the discovery of the truth is a common good. And now I will proceed to argue according to my own notion. But if any of you think that I arrive at conclusions which are untrue, you must interpose and refute me. For I do not speak from any knowledge of what I am saying. I am an inquirer like yourselves, and therefore, if my opponent says anything which is of force, I shall be the first to agree with him. I am speaking on the supposition that the argument ought to be completed. But if you think otherwise, let us leave off and go our ways. Gorgias, I think, Socrates, that we should not go our ways until you have completed the argument. And this appears to me to be the wish of the rest of the company. I myself should very much like to hear what more you have to say. Socrates, I too, Gorgias, should have liked to continue the argument with Callicles, and then I might have given him an Amphion in return for his Esthus. But since you, Callicles, are unwilling to continue, I hope that you will listen and interrupt me if I seem to be in an error. And if you refute me, I shall not be angry with you as you are with me, but I shall inscribe you as the greatest of benefactors on the tablets of my soul. I shall inscribe you as the greatest of benefactors on the tablets of my soul. My good fellow, never mind me, just get on. But get on. Socrates, listen to me then, while I recapitulate the argument. Is the pleasant the same as the good? Not the same. Callicles and I agreed about that. And is the pleasant to be pursued for the sake of the good, or the good for the sake of the pleasant? The pleasant is to pursue it for the sake of the good. And what is pleasant at the presence of which we are pleased? And that is pleasant at the presence of which we are pleased. And that is good at the presence of which we are good, to be sure. And we are good, and all good things whatever are good, when some virtue is present in us or them. That, Callicles, is my conviction. But the virtue of each thing, whether body or soul, instrument or creature, when given to them in the best way, comes to them not by chance, but as a result of the order and truth and art which are imparted to them. Am I not right? I maintain that I am. And is not the virtue of each thing dependent on order or arrangement? Yes, I say. And that which makes a thing good is the proper order inhering in each thing. Such is my view. And is not the soul which has an order of her own better than that which has no order? Certainly. And the soul which has order is orderly, of course. And that which is orderly is temperate, assuredly. And the temperate soul is good. No other answer can I give. Callicles, dear, have you any? Callicles, go on, my good fellow. Socrates, then I shall proceed to add that if the temperate soul is the good soul, the soul which is in the opposite condition, that is, the foolish and intemperate, is the bad soul. Very true. And will not the temperate man do what is proper, both in relation to the gods and to men? For he would not be temperate if he did not. Certainly, temperance is sophrosune, and I think sophrosune carries a lot more weight than mere temperance or moderation. Certainly he will do what is proper. There's almost a certain form of finesse, I think, in sophrosune, both in relation to the god, blah, blah, blah. Certainly he do what is proper. In his relation to other men, he will do what is just, and is in relation to gods, he will do what is holy. And he who does what is just and holy must be just and holy. Very true. And must he not be courageous? For the duty of the temperate man is not to follow or to avoid what he ought not, but what he ought, whether things or men or pleasures or pains, and patiently to endure when he ought. And therefore, Callicles, the temperate man being, as we have described, only just and courageous and holy, cannot be other than a perfectly good man. Nor can the good man be otherwise than well and perfectly whatever he does. And he who does well must of necessity be happy and blessed, and the evil man who does evil miserable. Now this latter is he whom you were applauding, the intemperate who is the opposite of the temperate. Such is my position, and these things I affirm to be true. And if they are true, then I further affirm that he who desires to be happy must pursue and practice temperance, and run away from intemperance as fast as his legs will carry him. He had better order his life so as not to need punishment. But if either he or any of his friends, whether private, individual, or city, are in need of punishment, then justice must be done, and he must suffer punishment. If he would be happy, this appears to me to be the aim which a man ought to have, and towards which he ought to direct all the energies both of himself and of the state, acting so that he may have temperance and justice present with him, and be happy, not suffering his lust to be unrestrained, and in the never-ending desire satisfy them, leading a robber's life. Such a one is the friend neither of God nor man, for he is incapable of communion, and he who is incapable of communion is also incapable of friendship. And philosophers tell us, Callicles, that communion and friendship, and orderliness and temperance and justice bind together heaven and earth, and gods and men, and that this universe is therefore called cosmos, or order, not disorder or misrule, my friend. But although you are a philosopher, you seem to me never to have observed that geometrical equality is mighty, both among gods and men. You think that you ought to cultivate inequality or excess, and do not care about geometry. Well, then, either the principle that the happy are made happy by the possession of justice. I almost threw my glass off the floor. It was... Well, then either the principle that the happy are made happy by the possession of justice and temperance, and the miserable by the possession of vice, must be refuted, or, if it is granted, what will be the consequences? All the consequences which I drew before, Callicles, and about which you ask me whether I was in earnest when I said that a man ought to accuse himself and his sons and his friend if he did anything wrong, and that to this end he should use his rhetoric. All those consequences are true, and that which you thought that Polus was led to admit out of modesty is true. There's that to do injustice, if more disgraceful than to suffer, is in that degree worse. And the other position, which, according to Polus, Gorgias admitted out of modesty, that he who would truly be a rhetorician ought to be the just and have a knowledge of justice, has also turned out to be true. And now, these things being as we have said, let us proceed in the next place to consider whether you are right in throwing in my teeth, that I am unable to help myself or any of my friends or kinsmen, or to save them in extremity of danger, and that I am in the power of another like an outlaw, to whom any one may do what he likes. He may box my ears, which was a brave saying of yours, or take away my goods, or banish me, or even do his worst and kill me, a condition which, as you say, is the height of disgrace. My answer to you is one which has been already often repeated, but may as well be repeated once more. I tell you, Callicles, that to be boxed on the ears wrongfully is not the worst evil which can befall a man, nor to have my purse or my body cut open, but that to smite and slay me and mine wrongfully is far more disgraceful and more evil. Aye, and to despoil and enslave and pillage or in any way at all to wrong me and mine, is far more disgraceful and evil to the doer of the wrong than to me who am the sufferer. These truths, which have been already set forth as I state them in the previous discussion, would seem now to have been fixed and riveted by us, if I may use an expression which is certainly bold, in which words which are like bonds of iron and adamant, and unless you or some other still more enterprising hero shall break them, there is no possibility of denying what I say. For my position has always been that I myself am ignorant how these things are, but that I have never met anyone who could say otherwise, any more than you can, and not appear ridiculous. This is my position still, and if what I am saying is true, and injustice is the greatest of evils to the doer of injustice, and yet there is, if possible, a greater than this greatest of evil, in an unjust man not suffering retribution. What is that defense of which the want will make a man truly ridiculous? Must not the defense be one which will avert the greatest of human evils? And will not the worst of all defenses be that with which a man is unable to defend himself, or his family, or his friends? And next will come that which is unable to avert the next greatest evil. Thirdly, that which is unable to avert the third greatest evil, and so on other evils. As is the greatest of evils, so is the honor of being able to avert them in their several degrees. And the disgrace of not being able to avert them. Am I not right, Callicles? Callicles, yes, quite right. Thus far our scripture. Again, I didn't sleep too much. When I woke up, instead of just looking at the time as the good girl that I am not, I started thinking about time. And that is really not a very good way to fall back asleep. That is something that could also keep one up. Thinking about time. I did draw a symbol today, this morning, but I'm gonna keep this one secret. It's for me. And for me to know, for my soul. So shall we talk about Socrates or about time? Well, we can combine the two. Clearly, Plato is here presenting Socrates' words in a type of prophetic way. For a moment there, I was thinking maybe some of the things that Plato is about to say was said by Socrates during the days before he passed away, before he drank from the cup. But I don't know. It feels like there's a bit of a sting in it, as if Plato is trying to be... Because the Socrates that we see, for instance, is it Critias? I always get confused with the two. The one where he is talking with his friend just before the Phaedo, where his friend tries to persuade him to leave. the Socrates we see there is spiritual and doesn't seem angry or anything of the sort. And the words that Socrates speaks here, if indeed it is one who knows that he has been condemned to death, does seem a bit bitter. So I don't think this is, I think this is Plato. The discovery of the truth is a common good. And if you help me discover the good, I shall inscribe you as the greatest of the benefactors in the tablets of my soul. The bad soul and the good soul is discussed here. The orderly soul being good and the disorderly soul being bad. I have an issue with this whole controlling the soul or anything for that matter. But the order, I wrote here microcosmos. And he did later speak about the cosmos, the beautiful order of the universe. And so I think what he might be hinting at here is to align yourself with the order of the cosmos, of the greater whole, of the one. Because if you're aligned with the one, you are aligned with beauty, you're aligned with goodness, you're aligned with truth. You're aligned with all the virtues, temperance, courage, piety. All of a sudden I can't think of any virtue. Aligning ourselves with the cosmos. I think that might be my interest in these questions, these cosmological questions, to a great extent. I think I mentioned when I spoke of not having a goal, it is because I believe the cosmos has no goal. The difference is, of course, that the cosmos knows what it is and I do not. Neither do I know myself very well, nor do I know the cosmological rules. Time, for instance. So, on the one hand, I really like this idea of the unfolding universe. And something sacred, but I'm not sure that I will call it God, to be honest. Something sacred in that. Because indeed, if God, then the word God evokes the idea of a personal God. To me, at least, and I think to many, if not most people. I exaggerate, maybe not most people. I don't have the authority to say that, or the knowledge. I don't have the knowledge to say that. And then I've said before that I think the number of philosophical arguments for the case of God is in fact proof that God is not. Definitely not a personal God, because exactly the only way to justify being a person who actually has a desire to establish any kind of relationship with another is to show up, to be there in person, be there in person, saying, touch me, smell me, I'm here. And that is not something that happens very often or commonly in this world. I would have scared myself shitless if all of a sudden something appeared behind me. It's one thing if it's a moth or something, but if it's an actual human being saying peekaboo over my shoulder. I'm a big mouth, but I'm really scared. But hey, I'll accept that. I'll take that. I'll tremble, but I'll be happy to know. So maybe better to speak of ultimate reality. What is the one, which I don't think is a personal being in itself? Because the thing is, if it's an unfolding, how do I square that with my my view that present, past, and future exist at the same time? I suppose there is some sort of unfolding. Maybe the one that is it the sea theory, that you can read from beginning to end or beginning, that would explain. I've had telepathic type of experience before, but it was always with people that I knew very well, in the present and past, never in the future. Because the thing is, if you know them in the present and the past, at least you know them, which is nice. Friends that I did ritual with, or Mia Nadal, for instance, she's one of the friends. And we actually, as teenagers, had a type of inkling group for a little while. Only, of course, we weren't too philosophical. We were very esoteric about it. We practiced palm reading. We didn't meet. I think we met twice, and telepathy. And as far as I remember, Adele and I actually succeeded in our practicing. Of course, you would sit across from each other and just stare in each other's eyes for a while, and then the one draws something and the other one must say what it is drawn. And one of us drew a hand. I can't remember who did the drawing and who did or a leaf, but a leaf like with 5. And the other one said, oh, it's a hand. Or the other way around, I can't remember, a long time ago. But so it's people like that, and my mom, of course. But like, I'm not a first generation weird woman, so that makes sense. That we should be able to, and then sporadically, and only when there's intense emotion involved, were we able to communicate like that. So I don't really understand anything, but that's nothing new. At least one thing is consistent in this: I don't understand anything. I do then also have a problem, or I should figure out how I can justify my experience of no space, no time, or the eternal present moment. Those moments that are just as if eternal. Oh, what did Folly say? Seeing the eternal in the... I'm gonna fuck it up if I try to. Not temporal, he used another word. Go subscribe to his Substack. I do like the idea of the unreality of time. Because then we can just say, well, time isn't real, so... No, that's not how it works. When I was thinking of this earlier, but I don't think so anymore, I thought maybe I'm leaning more towards... I don't know, I need to think about this more towards a panentheist type of view. But that comes very close to a personal God, potentially. And I'm not seeing anyone behind me yet. So I don't know. Didn't do much reading today either. I was working. And you would think if someone wakes up early and spends like an hour in bed just thinking about time, and still have enough time to be home before she goes to work, she would read some, but I didn't. Did wash my hair though. That was due. Sophia herself will guide your way.